The day my father died, my brother looked me in the eye and said, "You don't deserve a single cent of his fortune." I thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I was wrong. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how I lost everything and then discovered I'd had it all along. Growing up, my brother Marcus and I were inseparable. We built forts in the backyard, shared secrets under blankets with flashlights, and swore we'd always have each other's backs. Our parents, Thomas and Eleanor Mitchell, raised us in a modest home in suburban Connecticut. Dad was a quiet man who worked as an accountant, while Mom taught third grade at the local elementary school. We weren't rich, but we were happy. At least, that's what I believed. Marcus was always the golden child, the straight-A student, the football captain, the one who made our parents beam with pride at every achievement. I was different. I loved art, spent hours painting in the garage, and dreamed of opening my own gallery someday. Dad would sometimes sit with me while I worked, saying nothing, just watching with this small smile on his face. "You see the world differently, Sarah," he told me once. "That's your gift." Marcus went to Harvard Business School. I went to a small art college in Vermont. Marcus became a successful investment banker in Manhattan. I struggled to make ends meet selling paintings at local markets. The distance between us grew, not just in miles, but in understanding. When Mom died of cancer 5 years ago, something shifted in our family. Dad withdrew into himself, and Marcus became obsessed with the family finances. He'd visit Dad every weekend, bringing spreadsheets and talking about protecting the estate and smart investments. I visited too, but I brought soup and old photo albums, and we'd sit together in comfortable silence. I didn't know it then, but those quiet afternoons were Dad's way of telling me everything I needed to know. 2 months ago, I got the call. Dad had suffered a massive heart attack. He was gone before the ambulance arrived. I drove through the night from my tiny studio apartment, tears blurring the highway lines, my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. At the funeral, Marcus was composed, shaking hands and accepting condolences like a politician. I could barely stand, held up by my partner Jamie and a handful of friends. As they lowered Dad's casket into the ground, Marcus didn't shed a single tear. He just checked his watch twice. The reading of the will was scheduled for the following week. I didn't care about money. I just wanted my father back. But Marcus? Marcus wore his most expensive suit and brought his lawyer. If you're connecting with this story, please consider subscribing. There's so much more to come. The attorney's office was cold, sterile, all glass and chrome. Mr. Peterson, Dad's lawyer for 30 years, sat behind an enormous desk, his expression unreadable. Marcus sat to my right, posture perfect, radiating confidence. I twisted a tissue in my hands, still numb from grief. "Before we begin," Mr. Peterson said, adjusting his glasses, "I want you both to know that your father spent considerable time on these arrangements. Every word was intentional." Marcus nodded impatiently. I just stared at the envelope in Mr. Peterson's hands, the last message from my father. What came next would change everything I thought I knew about my family, about my brother, and about the man who raised us. Mr. Peterson opened the will and began reading. The first part was standard, some charitable donations, a few items for distant relatives. Then he got to the main estate. "To my son, Marcus Thomas Mitchell, I leave my investment portfolio, valued at approximately $1.2 million, along with a family home in Connecticut and all its contents." I felt my stomach drop, but not from greed, from the realization that Dad had seen us so differently. Marcus allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. He reached over and squeezed my hand, but there was something cold in his grip. "And to my daughter, Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell," Marcus interrupted. "Let me guess. The art supplies from the garage." Mr. Peterson's jaw tightened. "Please let me finish." But Marcus was already standing, buttoning his jacket. "Look, Sarah, I know this is hard to hear, but Dad was practical. You've never been financially responsible. You're an artist." He said the word like it was an insult. "The money needs to go to someone who understands its value." "Marcus, sit down." Mr. Peterson's voice was sharp now. "I'm not finished. What else is there?" Marcus laughed, but it sounded nervous. $100? Her old bedroom furniture? I couldn't speak. My throat was closed tight with humiliation and grief. This was my brother, the boy I'd built forts with, and he was talking about me like I was a stranger. Like I was nothing. To my daughter Sarah, Mr. Peterson continued, his voice deliberate, I leave my private business holdings. The room went silent. What private business holdings? Marcus's confidence faltered. Dad was an accountant. He worked for other people. Mr. Peterson pulled out another folder, this one much thicker. Your father started a small investment firm 23 years ago. He never advertised, never sought attention. He managed money for a select group of clients, quietly, successfully. Over the years, that firm grew considerably. My hands were shaking. Dad had never mentioned this. Not once. The business, including all assets, intellectual property, and client relationships, is valued at approximately $8.4 million. Sarah, your father left it entirely to you, along with a letter explaining his decision. The color drained from Marcus's face. $8.4 million? That's impossible. I managed Dad's finances. I would have known. You managed the finances your father allowed you to see, Mr. Peterson said coolly. Thomas was very deliberate about what information he shared with whom. Marcus turned to me, and for the first time in years, I saw real emotion in his eyes. Rage. This is insane. Sarah knows nothing about business. She can barely pay her rent. Dad must have been senile when he wrote this. We'll contest it. This will be overturned. There's more. Mr. Peterson held up his hand. Your father anticipated objections. He included a clause specifically addressing any contest to the will. He pulled out a single sheet of paper and read, should Marcus attempt to challenge this will or Sarah's inheritance, he forfeits his entire inheritance, which will instead be donated to the American Cancer Society in memory of Eleanor Mitchell. The room was suffocating. Marcus stood frozen, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I watched my brother, my only sibling, realize that our father had outmaneuvered him from beyond the grave. You don't deserve a cent, Marcus finally whispered, his voice venomous. You never earned anything. You're a failure. Those words should have destroyed me. Instead, something inside me broke open, not with pain, but with clarity. There's a letter, Mr. Peterson said quietly, sliding an envelope across the desk to me. Your father asked that you read it here, now, in front of everyone. My hands trembled as I opened it. Dad's handwriting, neat, precise, achingly familiar, filled the page. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I imagine your brother is very angry right now. Let me explain. When you were 7 years old, you came home crying because a boy at school said your painting looked like baby scribbles. You were devastated. I found you that night in the garage, ripping up your artwork. Do you remember what I did? I sat with you in silence for an hour. Then I said, the world will always have critics, Sarah. The question is, will you let them silence your voice? You dried your tears, taped your painting back together, and kept creating. That's when I knew. I had to stop reading. Tears were streaming down my face. I did remember. It was one of the few times Dad had given me direct advice. Marcus is brilliant with numbers. He understands profit margins and risk management. But somewhere along the way, he learned to measure worth only in dollars. He looks at your life and sees failure because you don't have a corner office or a six-figure salary. But I see something different. I see someone who chose passion over prestige. Someone who stayed with her dying mother every single day during those final months, while Marcus was too busy with work. Someone who called me every Sunday night, not to ask for money, but just to talk about life, art, and the little things that make existence beautiful. You never knew about my business because I built it quietly, the same way you create your art, without need for applause or recognition. I started it the year you were born, actually. I wanted to ensure both my children would be taken care of, no matter what path they chose. But over the years, I watched Marcus become someone I didn't recognize. He became obsessed with status, with being better than. He stopped seeing people as people and started seeing them as assets or liabilities. The final straw came last Christmas. Do you remember? You gave me that painting, the one of our old house with Mom in the garden. I cried, Sarah. It was the most thoughtful gift I'd ever received. Marcus gave me a Rolex. Expensive, yes. But when I thanked him, he said, well, it's tax deductible, and it looks good for my image to give expensive gifts. That's when I changed my will. Marcus made a strangled sound. I kept reading. This isn't about punishment, though I know Marcus will see it that way. This is about understanding value. Sarah, you've always known that the most important things in life can't be bought or sold. You understand that time, attention, and genuine care are the real currencies of a meaningful life. The business is yours because I trust you to use it wisely. Not to become wealthy, though you will be, but to create something meaningful. Maybe you'll fund young artists. Maybe you'll support causes you believe in. Whatever you choose, I know it will come from the heart. If this story is touching your heart, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe for more. Marcus will be fine. He has his fortune, his career, his impressive life. What he doesn't have is the ability to see beyond the balance sheet. Perhaps losing this will teach him something. Or perhaps it won't. That's his journey, not yours. One final thing, my darling girl. You are not a failure. You never were. You're exactly who you were meant to be. Don't let anyone, not even your brother, convince you otherwise. I love you. I'm proud of you. And I'll be watching over you, probably from some cosmic art gallery in the sky. Forever your father, Thomas. The silence in the room was deafening. I folded the letter carefully, pressed it against my chest, and finally looked at Marcus. My brother's face was a mask of humiliation and rage. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. For years, I'd envied his success, his confidence, his place in Dad's life. Now I realized I'd had what mattered all along. You poisoned him against me, Marcus said, his voice shaking. You manipulated him. I visited him, I said quietly. My voice surprised me. It was steady, strong. I sat with him. I listened to his stories. I brought him soup when he was sick. That's not manipulation, Marcus. That's called being his daughter. You're not equipped for this. Marcus was shouting now. You'll destroy everything Dad built. You'll lose it all within a year. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. Actually, there's one more provision. Thomas set up a trust structure with experienced managers. Sarah has full authority over charitable distributions and major decisions, but the day-to-day operations will be handled by professionals. Your father was thorough. Of course he was. Dad knew me, knew I'd be terrified of this responsibility. He'd built in support systems safety nets. Even in death, he was taking care of me. Marcus grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door. But he stopped, turned back. You know what? Keep it. Keep all of it. But don't ever call me again. You're not my sister anymore. The door slammed behind him, rattling the windows. I should have felt victorious. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt exhausted and sad. I'd gained a fortune but lost my only brother. Was it worth it? Mr. Peterson's voice was gentle. He'll come around. Or he won't. But that's not your burden to carry. He was right. For the first time in my life, I understood what Dad had been trying to teach me all along. I couldn't save Marcus from himself. I could only live my own truth. 3 months have passed since that day. I haven't heard from Marcus. According to mutual friends, he's been telling people I stole his inheritance, that I manipulated a dying old man. Let him have his narrative. I know the truth. I kept my studio apartment. The money sits in accounts, managed by competent people who send me monthly reports I'm slowly learning to understand. I still paint every day. But now I also run a foundation that provides grants to struggling artists, scholarships to art students, and funding for community art programs in underserved areas. One final thing, my darling girl. You are not a failure. You never were. You're exactly who you were meant to be. Don't let anyone, not even your brother, convince you otherwise. I love you. I'm proud of you. And I'll be watching over you, probably from some cosmic art gallery in the sky. Forever your father, Thomas. The silence in the room was deafening. I folded the letter carefully, pressed it against my chest, and finally looked at Marcus. My brother's face was a mask of humiliation and rage. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. For years, I'd envied his success, his confidence, his place in Dad's life. Now I realized I'd had what mattered all along. You poisoned him against me, Marcus said, his voice shaking. You manipulated him. I visited him, I said quietly. My voice surprised me. It was steady, strong. I sat with him. I listened to his stories. I brought him soup when he was sick. That's not manipulation, Marcus. That's called being his daughter. You're not equipped for this. Marcus was shouting now. You'll destroy everything Dad built. You'll lose it all within a year. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. Actually, there's one more provision. Thomas set up a trust structure with experienced managers. Sarah has full authority over charitable distributions and major decisions, but the day-to-day operations will be handled by professionals. Your father was thorough. Of course he was. Dad knew me, knew I'd be terrified of this responsibility. He'd built in support systems safety nets. Even in death, he was taking care of me. Marcus grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door. But he stopped, turned back. You know what? Keep it. Keep all of it. But don't ever call me again. You're not my sister anymore. The door slammed behind him, rattling the windows. I should have felt victorious. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt exhausted and sad. I'd gained a fortune but lost my only brother. Was it worth it? Mr. Peterson's voice was gentle. He'll come around. Or he won't. But that's not your burden to carry. He was right. For the first time in my life, I understood what Dad had been trying to teach me all along. I couldn't save Marcus from himself. I could only live my own truth. 3 months have passed since that day. I haven't heard from Marcus. According to mutual friends, he's been telling people I stole his inheritance, that I manipulated a dying old man. Let him have his narrative. I know the truth. I kept my studio apartment. The money sits in accounts, managed by competent people who send me monthly reports I'm slowly learning to understand. I still paint every day. But now I also run a foundation that provides grants to struggling artists, scholarships to art students, and funding for community art programs in underserved areas. Sometimes I wonder if Marcus ever reads the letters I still send him. Birthday cards. Holiday greetings. Just thinking of you notes. They all come back unopened. His revenge is silence, and honestly, it's more painful than any words could be. But I keep sending them, because that's what Dad would have wanted. That's what love looks like, showing up even when the door stays closed. Jamie asks me sometimes if I regret how everything unfolded. The honest answer is complicated. I wish Marcus and I could have remained close. I wish he could have seen the inheritance as Dad's love language rather than a competition he lost. I wish a lot of things, but I don't regret knowing the truth. Dad saw me, really saw me in a way Marcus never could. That letter wasn't just about money or business holdings. It was about a father telling his daughter, "You are enough. You always were." That gift is priceless. I visit Dad's grave every Sunday morning. I bring fresh flowers. Wildflowers, never roses, because Dad always said wildflowers had more personality. I tell him about the foundation, about the artists we're helping, about the difference his quiet fortune is making. Sometimes I imagine him sitting next to me, that small smile on his face, saying nothing, just being present. It's enough. Last month, something unexpected happened. I received an email from Marcus's ex-girlfriend, Elena. We'd met a few times at family gatherings before they broke up. She wrote, "Sarah, I don't know if you remember me, but I wanted you to know something. When Marcus and I were together, your dad took me aside once. He said, 'If you ever need help, call Sarah. She understands what matters.' At the time, I didn't know what he meant. Now I do. Marcus is miserable. He's chasing deals and status, but he's empty inside. I thought you should know, not because you need to fix it, but because maybe it'll help you understand. Your father saw it coming." I read that email 10 times. Dad had seen Marcus's trajectory clearly, had watched his son trade his humanity for success. And Dad had tried, in his quiet way, to leave breadcrumbs back to what mattered. The inheritance wasn't revenge. It was a mirror, forcing Marcus to see himself clearly. Whether he ever looks into that mirror is his choice, not mine. I've learned something profound through all of this. Betrayal teaches you who people really are, but it also reveals who you are. Marcus showed me he'd choose money over family. But I discovered I could forgive him anyway. Not because he deserves it, but because holding on to anger would make me into someone I'm not. Dad's hidden clause wasn't just in the will. It was in every quiet moment we shared, every painting he admired, every time he chose presence over productivity. He was writing a different kind of legacy, one that couldn't be measured in dollars or quantified in spreadsheets. He was teaching me that worth isn't earned through achievement, it's inherent in how we love, how we show up, how we see beauty in ordinary moments. Some people might say Marcus was the real victim of Dad's will, that he was punished for being successful. I disagree. Marcus received exactly what he valued: money, property, tangible assets. He just didn't realize how much more he was missing. If this journey has resonated with you, please subscribe. Stories like these remind us what truly matters. I'm not rich because I have $8.4 million. I'm rich because I spend afternoons with my father, because I know how to find beauty in struggle, because I understand that the best inheritance isn't money, it's knowing you were genuinely loved. When the lawyer read that hidden clause, Marcus heard punishment. I heard my father's voice one final time, telling me what he'd told me my whole life. You see the world differently, Sarah. That's your gift. And you know what? He was right.